pretend like you hard, but you're not, Ja. You got a $200 million contract, and you want people in the NBA to think you hood, to think you gangster, because you roll with these type of people, bro. You putting yourself in harm's way when you don't have to. Nobody looks at you, Ja, and think, man, that's a thug. He hood. He down. He about that. You not.
Heritage Sports. Does Ja Morant play for the NRA? I'm pretty sure he plays for the NRA, right? Yeah, I mean, I want to start off. I want to start this video off by saying and being fair to Ja Morant. Ja Morant, as you see in this video, he's getting his Paul Pierce on. There's nothing wrong with that. All right, early morning of the night, partying with females and people. That's cool. That's fine. Then he displays this weapon, and again, I'm not against you displaying weapons because that is completely within your right. All right, I want to say that first and foremost. He's not doing anything illegal in these videos, wearing his chains and having a good time. Nothing wrong with that because that's our culture in a lot of different places in this community. So with that being said, you really got to think if that was it, that'd be cool. But it's coupled with so much stuff that's going on. You have to think about there's being reports that are on wax, him, getting into it with a 17-year-old, 18-year-old teenager and saying it's self-defense. We have on wax where it's reported him going down to the mall and pushing a director of security in his head. We have also reports that he got into it with a NBA team and him and his crew were waiting outside of the FedEx Forum Arena or Center, and they were allegedly showing or displaying lasers towards them. Bro, we know what that means. We know what them lasers attached to. We know what you're trying to do and intimidate. So is that coupled with him being up early mornings in these parties, these crazy parties, and displaying weapons? And it's so crazy because I know his partners are like, bro, we just launched this Powerade commercial, this Powerade campaign. We just relaunched this. And Nike like, man, bro, we just gave you a new shoe. We just gave you a new shoe. I know they're like, man, we can't just keep picking just everybody. Everybody just going crazy as soon as we have a contract with them. Don't even have one with Kyrie no more. Now here comes Ja Morant. So I know they're feeling uneasy, and I know they've probably had conversations with his representatives sooner or later, or will. Which gets me to my point in this video. Will the NBA step in and have conversations with him? Because at this point, I think it's warranted. And let me just say this. I really think they've already had conversations with him. And I think those conversations will continue. Because you can't say this is consistent with their brand of what they want to put out. It's not. I mean, we could say, oh, well, he's not doing anything legal and all this other stuff. We all know whether something is representing our employer. We can understand that argument. So, you're in the news for, getting into it with teenagers. You're in the news for going down to the mall because your mom got disrespected. You're in the news because you're shooting lasers at people, trying to intimidate people, and being something that continues to escalate. And if I'm the NBA, I'm worried. You have to be worried because you know how these things can get out of hand, whether it's with rappers, entertainers, and they could definitely be with athletes. You're doing all these parties, and that party had to be either in Denver or Los Angeles. I watched Ja Morant lose last night in Denver, and I looked up their schedule. They play the Clippers the next day. They're on a West Coast trip. They're not going to fly back to Memphis and then fly back to Los Angeles. It doesn't work like that. Either they were still in Denver when they were partying, or they went to Los Angeles and waiting on the next game because they're on a West Coast trip. So now he's on the road with firearms and weapons and having these parties early in the morning. Hey, it's great to be a millionaire and enjoying your life. I'm not trying to say don't enjoy your life, but it's one of those situations where you're one step away from bad stuff happening. You really are. whether him doing something to somebody or somebody doing something to him or reaction to them. It can happen just like that, just so quick. So my thing is, when does the NBA step in? Because they've been kind of quiet on issues that I've noticed. So, they've come down rightfully so on racial things, that especially on non-black people. Whether you talk about the Donald Sterlings of the world, I think his name is Myers Leonard, and I know he's back on the Bucks. He said his slur that was not against black people, but in general, they've come down hard on them and whether they can actually play in the league or be in the league. And then you look at Kyrie Irving. He said this. He didn't even say his slur. He just endorsed stuff that was against their values and stuff like that. We don't have to rehash it. But when it comes to, how can I say, black issues, I think they're silent. They just punt it. So I'll give you an example. So Dame Lillard 2 weeks ago was on a plane. They were stuck in the Northwest. It was snowing or whatever, the winter. And during that time they stuck on the plane, he put out a rap video. Now, don't get me wrong, Dame could spit. Dame a rapper. But in that video where he raps, he says a slur. And we all know what slur he's talking about. that black people typically say. NBA did not put out a press release. They ain't worried about it. We just gonna look the other way? Nope. But I ask you, what if what if Jokic put out that video? That would be funny. Seeing him try to rap, that would be funny. But I'm just saying, just throwing that out there. What if Myers Leonard would have put out that video while he was stuck on the plane? You know how big of a firestorm that would be. So I feel like they've been picking and choosing, especially these kind of issues. But I don't think they could keep ignoring it if it just keeps getting bad. Everyone can see the path that this can potentially be. And I'm not wishing that on anybody. But you're having all these incidents in the news. 3 separate incidents, and how many incidents we don't even know about. In the FedEx Forum Arena, on the road, wherever. How many more incidents do we not know about? So you got to put that in your head. Like, everything cannot make the news. And on fact, the double that after games, you're having these late parties, which is cool, but with weapons on the road. So you got weapons on the NBA road, wherever you are. You want to be safe? Okay, cool. But this is mixed with stuff that can potentially get out of hand. So I really think there needs to be in-person meetings if they're not already. And again, I think they've talked to Ja before. I don't think it's the first time. But really in-depth meetings to say this is what there needs to be a resetting of expectations. And the expectations, that's not how, I'm going to just be real. That's not how you want your employee to be. I don't care what anybody can have to say about this. I understand everybody has different perspectives. He's still an employee. He is a self-made millionaire. A very, very self-made millionaire. Because he put himself in the ability to get drafted by an NBA team to be good at basketball. So I am not ignorant to that fact. I don't believe that the NBA is the reason for him being who he is. He had to train to be that way. So he's a self-made millionaire. Completely get that. But when you're a self-made millionaire and you in the NBA, not the NRA, when you're in the NBA, you're an employee. And whether you like it or not, if you work for any corporation and, you get into these incidents, that doesn't look good on your employer. So we can keep it real and say, bro, the brand is not this. And I don't want to make too many comparisons, whether it's LeBron, whether it's D Wade in my head, whether it's Devin Booker, whether it's Chris Paul, whether it's Kevin Durant, whether it's, you get the point. This is not what they're doing. It's not what they're displaying. Paul Pierce is doing that. But Paul Pierce is retired. But my point is this. They're, they're not doing that. They're not putting it on the internet. Those stories aren't coming out in the news. You know, outside of Chris Paul, like defending his family randomly, but that's about it. So so I want people to understand that there needs to be a goal, a reset on expectation and goals for Ja Morant, and I think the NBA needs to step in immediately. Because I'm not saying that what he did was unacceptable. This video is unacceptable. I'm saying he needs to understand the responsibility that those that the exposure brings, the brand brings, the millions that he has brings. And I don't think he's on the right path. And I hope I don't want it to go worse. I don't want it to go the next step. Whether something happens to someone else, something happens to him, something happens to people around him. That's not what needs to happen. You look at Michael Vick, and I know I'm jumping sports, but Michael Vick was on a very, very similar path. He was a unbelievably talented, self-made millionaire athlete, and he knew what he liked to do. And I'm not saying that what he did is directly comparable, but my my key issue with bringing that up is he could not let something go that he knew was criminal. And you're like, oh, well, what did Ja Morant do that's criminal? I don't know, but I know fighting teenagers is criminal adjacent, and is getting closer to bad. So if someone had stepped in for Michael Vick at that time, think about where he would have gone. Maybe he would have won multiple Super Bowls. Maybe he would have been unquestioned Hall of Fame quarterback. Because right now, I mean, the guy should be, but I don't know if he has the stats. I don't know if he has the cachet with the writers, cachet with the players. He's one of the most talented football players I've ever seen, and he probably will not be in the NFL Hall of Fame. If somebody had stepped in, the NFL had stepped in, think about where he would have been. And sometimes people do need a resetting, and I'm not wishing anything on Ja Morant, but it really reminds me of that situation. I don't want that to happen. So I'm hoping someone can step in, whether it's NBA, whether it's NBA players, whether it's his family, somebody, because it can't keep going on like this. Those are just my thoughts. Heritage Sports.